The Galactic Council chambers had never been so quiet. Ambassador Zethkar of the Vorthak Confederacy stared at the holographic display with all four of his eyes, his chitinous frame trembling slightly. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 47 different species sat in stunned silence, their various forms of breathing creating an eerie symphony of gasps, clicks, and whistles. The human representative, Ambassador Sarah Chen, sat calmly in her designated seat, her hands folded in her lap. She appeared almost bored, which only made the situation more unsettling for the other delegates. "Explain," Zethkar finally managed, his translator struggling with the emotion in his voice. "Explain what we just witnessed." Sarah stood gracefully, her movements fluid and controlled. "What you witnessed, honored delegates, was humanity's first successful test of our electromagnetic mass accelerator. We call it a Railgun. The Catherian delegate, a crystalline being that communicated through light patterns, flashed a rapid sequence of alarmed colors. Its translator spoke in a mechanical voice. The projectile achieved 0.89 c, 0.89 the speed of light. This is impossible." "Clearly not impossible," Sarah replied with a slight smile. "Difficult, certainly. Expensive, absolutely, but not impossible." High Counselor Morthak, the ancient Zilithian who presided over the council, leaned forward on his floating platform. His telepathic voice echoed in every mind present. "Young species, do you comprehend what you have done?" Sarah's expression didn't change. "We've successfully accelerated a 50-kilogram tungsten rod to near-light speed using electromagnetic induction. The projectile traveled 847 million kilometers in 47 minutes and obliterated the designated asteroid target. Complete molecular disintegration." "That asteroid was the size of your moon," Morthak projected, his mental voice carrying undertones of disbelief. "We're aware of the target specifications," Sarah nodded. "We selected it specifically for its size and composition." The Etherian representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, spoke through harmonic vibrations. "In 10,000 years of galactic civilization, no species has achieved such destructive capability. The energy requirements alone should have been impossible for your primitive fusion reactors." Sarah's smile widened slightly. "Who said we used fusion?" A collective shudder ran through the chamber. The implications were staggering. Zethkar's mandibles clicked nervously. What power source could possibly generate such energy output? "Trade secret," Sarah replied cheerfully, "but I can tell you it's remarkably efficient and scalable." The word scalable sent another wave of unease through the assembly. "Commander." Vexthul of the Hegemony War Council, a massive reptilian warrior whose species had conquered 17 systems, stood slowly. His voice was a deep rumble that made the chamber floor vibrate. "Is this a threat, human?" Sarah looked genuinely surprised. "A threat? Commander, we invited you all to observe the test. This is diplomacy, not intimidation." "Then why?" interrupted the Morphic Collective's hive mind representative. "Did you demonstrate this weapon at all?" Sarah walked to the center of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the silence. "Because for too long, humanity has been dismissed as primitives, barely space-capable, unworthy of full council membership. Give them a few more centuries, you said. Let them mature, you said." She gestured to the holographic display still showing the weapon's devastating results. "We've been space-capable for less than 2 centuries. And yet we've achieved something your ancient civilizations considered impossible. Not through superior technology inherited from some precursor race, not through millennia of gradual advancement, but through human ingenuity, determination, and what you might call stubbornness." High Counselor Morthak's mental voice was barely a whisper. "How did you overcome the energy cascade problem? Every simulation shows that such acceleration rates should have torn your device apart." Material science, Sarah said simply. And perhaps a different approach to physics than your species typically employ. Humans have a saying, if brute force doesn't work, you're not using enough of it. The Catherian delegate flashed rapid patterns of confusion and fear. Your species weaponized principles we use for delicate quantum calculations. How? We also have another saying, Sarah continued. If it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. Commander Vex Thul's scales rippled with what his species' equivalent of nervous laughter. You turned theoretical physics into a weapon of unprecedented destruction, without warning, without consultation. We consulted our own scientists, Sarah replied, and we provided ample warning. The test was announced 6 months ago through proper diplomatic channels. Zethkar made a sound like grinding metal. We thought it was another failed experiment. Announcement. Your species files such reports constantly. We file reports on everything we try, Sarah agreed, including our failures. It's called the scientific method. You learn from what doesn't work to figure out what does. The chamber fell silent again as the implications sank in. Humanity didn't just stumble onto one breakthrough. They systematically worked through problems until they found solutions. High Counselor Morthak's mental presence grew heavy with consideration. What do you want, humans? Sarah's diplomatic mask finally slipped, revealing something harder underneath. Recognition, respect, and a seat at the adult table. We're not asking to be handed galactic leadership, but we're done being patted on the head and told to come back when we're older. She gestured again at the display. This railgun has a range of approximately 900 million kilometers with pinpoint accuracy. We've constructed 12 of them. Each one can fire once every 6 hours. The silence stretched for long minutes. Finally, Morthak's mental voice returned, formal and careful. The Galactic Council recognizes humanity's application for full membership. Status. All in favor? 47 hands, claws, tentacles, and energy projections rose in unison. Sarah smiled and returned to her seat. Thank you, honored delegates. I look forward to working with you all as equals. As the other ambassadors filed out in subdued conversations, Zethkar approached Sarah's station. Was it really necessary to be so dramatic? Sarah looked up at the insectoid diplomat. Ambassador, in my experience, sometimes the only way to get someone's attention is to make noise they can't ignore. Outside the station's viewports, the stars seemed somehow different now. The galaxy had indeed gone silent when humanity fired its first railgun, but it was the silence of a universe suddenly paying attention to the newcomers who had just announced they were ready to play with the big kids, and humanity was just getting started.